Hey guys, welcome. Shaman Moon here. I'm here with my special guest, Luna Elizabeth THORN and Muertero Chris, the God Owl.
Howdy,
So,
howdy.
hi guys.
Hello.
We're on.
So
How's
I thought
everybody doing?
doing good.
Mhm.
Ooh, we got comments
Qué bueno.
coming up. And I'm also going to be taking comments from Facebook as well.
Okay, cool.
So let's get started. So my first question is for Luna. Luna, how long have you been practicing?
I've been practicing since I was 11 years old, so probably since 1999.
99? Wow.
And I'm 32 now, so like 22 years, 23, something like that.
Oh, right on. So I remember
Awesome.
you from a few years ago when I kind of started looking for other YouTubers that were involved with devotions of La Santisima Muerte. And I remember you were one of the first ones that I ran into. Prior to that, coming on YouTube, how long before that were you working with La Santisima Muerte?
Let's see. I got on YouTube in like 2011, and I started working with La Santa Muerte probably in 2008. So like
Oh, okay.
well, like
Wow.
Dang, that's quite a
Cool.
bit.
I mean,
Um,
it's
so when I started,
I was just gonna say it was,
when I got on YouTube, as I was still like learning about her. I wasn't like as I was still kind of a newbie.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you started working with La Santisima Muerte, is it something that she was introduced to you by somebody else, or she came to you, you went to her? How did it work out?
I started to have dreams about her, and I didn't know that I was her. Until I met this lady. My mom used to work with this lady named Inez, and she was a witch with a tattoo of a pentagram on her wrist, and then that's how I actively got involved in a conversation with her, and I tell her about this dream that I was having, and she introduced me to the Santa Muerte. She explained to me that was La Santa Muerte, and I had no idea. I just thought it was like a Grim Reaper. And when I was dreaming about her, she came to me dressed in red, and in the dream she was right in front of me, but there was me and a guy. So in the dream, she put my arm like this and the guy's arm like that. Let me see, like that. And then she got like a rose, and she started to tie the rose around our hands until the thorn like pricked us, and we were bleeding, but we didn't feel any pain. And I don't know who the guy was, but like it almost seemed like a marriage ceremony, right? So I was explaining it to her, and she's like, "Oh, that was the red one. That you're meant to work with that one. You're meant to work with love magic." And as of now, I still work with that type of energy, but I work with a bunch of other different entities, spirits in my spiritual frame that have to do with that love energy. But it was almost like a door that opened up for me to pass through to work with the spirits of the dead. That is just like the archetypal energy that came to me. I still have the Santa Muerte. I'm not actively involved with her at this time, but I still have her, and I give her space and her devotions. But since then, I've moved into wherever she pushed me to, which is what I'm into now.
Oh, okay. And so, like, what is it that she's you feel that she's led you into now? What exactly is that practice now?
It's a combination of different practices. Number one, I practice espiritismo, and I'm working on my mediumship and developing myself in that respect. But through that, I got involved with a lot of Afro-Caribbean traditions, such as the Orisha tradition and Lukumi, which are the same. Then I'm involved in the Congo tradition of Palo Mayombe, not Palo Monte, but Palo Mayombe, which I'm studying. And I'm also studying right now Kimbanda, which is a part of, it's a part of a tradition that's almost called Umbanda, which is like, sorry, let me say that again. There's a tradition called Candomblé, which is like an umbrella for these two other traditions, Kimbanda and I study and practice Kimbanda.
Oh, okay, cool. How long has that been going on for?
Cool.
It's been in the background, and I've been actively studying it since 2012.
Oh, okay.
I'm just more active in it now.
Yeah, right on. So you're up in California, right? That's where you're at?
Correct.
Okay. So in California, aside from yourself, is there a lot of other practitioners, Candomblé and like Kimbanda and all that? Or are you kind of like a lone wolf and all that right now?
Well, I live in Southern California, so I'm predominantly Mexican. So a lot of that is like Brujeria, like Mexican witchcraft, and a lot of devotion to the Santa Muerte here. And I live in an area where there's a lot of botanicals, okay? And there's also some Orisha tradition, but there's no active houses, at least not in my area. They're more of just like, I don't know, devotees, followers. I don't think any of them are openly out with their initiations or anything, but for the most part, it's just kind of like brujeria.
Right. Man, y'all are so lucky. I both live like close to like botanicas and yerberias, and I moved from San Antonio to out here to Lowell, and there's like no botanicas out here, no yerberias. So
yeah, it is. It's like when I was younger, I'll be honest with you, like going into botanicas, the first time I went into one, I was probably like 19, and I kind of thought it was, I was like, this is not magic. What the fuck is this? Like, you're telling me a little bottle that's just come to me is going to make something happen, right? Because I came from a different background. I came from a more like traditional English witchcraft background, you know, like the Alexandrian and Gardnerian traditions. And so anything that was that, it didn't come.
Yeah, that's the way I was.
Like, yeah, so I didn't understand it. And I didn't realize that there was magic around me the entire time, all these magical these different shops. But not only the botanicas, but there's also a lot of grocery stores out here that carry, like these types of candles, you know what I mean? They have like their own section where they have like medicine, right? So they sell like medicine. So there you'll find like Florida water, like siete machos, because it's part of the culture. So they're not selling it as some kind of magical curio. They're selling it as part of medication, like to put on your body, to inhale when you have a headache. This area where I lived is very steeped in Mexican culture.
That's awesome. Wow. Well, that's something that I find a lot now is like a lot of people that are coming into this practice, like even if it's not La Santisima Muerte, but they see like a bottle of Florida water. They see a lot of, especially like, Mexica, people, Mexican people, even as Puerto Rican people or what have you, using the agua Florida in the practice. And so they have to go and buy this shit thinking, it's a magical thing, but they don't really know that, it has a long history as actually being a cologne. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, they don't even know how it comes into like, the Mexican people and how they use it, and then how it was brought into like, practice of brujeria, and how some people are into the practice of santeria and how it got that way, and how it's used as a spiritual lotion or cologne in that sense. So they just go out to buy the bottle and they're like, oh, bam, I got a magic thing. There's a way to get it that way, but there's not a whole lot of I see a lot of people making that kind of like weird mistake. You know what I'm saying?
To me, Florida water is the sage.
What's that again?
To me, Florida water, the use of Florida water has become like the new sage.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I remember one time seeing on Facebook, like, it was, when you don't have time for like sage or something like that, use Florida, like, it's like you said, like liquid sage. I don't remember exactly how it was read out, but you're right on that. It's literally liquid sage now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't like the sounds anyway, so I use, what I use to cleanse my area is I use one of these. A cigar.
Oh, what is that? Oh, a cigar? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do that too.
Yeah, one of the ways that I was taught was not only like blessing the agua florida, but also having Roman Catholic holy water, and in a bottle half and half. So you have half Roman Catholic holy water, and fill up the other half with half of the bottle of the Florida water, and you have holy Florida water. That's one of the ways that I was taught. So
Florida water. The word Florida literally means flower, right? So when you make Florida water, there's a lot of different elements that go into it. Like there's different herbs that are steeped in alcohol. Like traditionally, when you make your own, this is like Florida water like this is, mass made. So there's like a lot of essential oils from flowers in here. But when you actually make it, you have to understand that not only are you receiving the protection and the cleansing benefits of the actual herbs, but you're mixing it with alcohol, which is a cleansing agent, right?
Right.
So when we use Florida water and we use the cigar has tobacco in it. And people are always confused about why I use a cigar. Well, I use a cigar because when the slaves were here and when the Europeans enslaved also the indigenous people of the South Americas, right? They had them work on the tobacco field. The tobacco has the energy of our ancestors. And that's why I like to use it. Just like rum in the sugarcane fields, it also has the energy of our ancestors.
That's good information.
I agree, Luna. I totally agree.
Yeah, that's really good information. Because a lot of people don't really understand like the whole the philosophy. The philosophies of like, well, why the cigar, why the agua florida, things of that nature. A lot of people don't really know or understand that. So it's pretty good that you put that out there.
Colognes in general, so like we have like Florida water, right? But we also have other colognes like 1800, and then we have the tobacco, we have siete machos, right? We use those in cleansings. We're actually perfuming our aura, because when we perfume our aura, it's almost like an offering we're giving to the benevolent spirits that we choose to work with, such as our ancestors, our spirit guides, or like Santa Muerte. We are offering this perfume to them by cleansing ourselves. It's kind of like when you go to visit like your grandparents or whatever, and your family's like, you get all dressed up and you want to make sure that you're presentable, right? Well, it's the same thing when we go to work with our spirits. We have to be presentable to them. You don't want to come dirty. And so these things like this are a spiritual link that we have to these entities that we work with. It not only helps them come through, but it helps us establish more of a connection with them. That is why it's so important to use things like Florida water and our white spiritual bath. The white spiritual bath is what we use to connect more to that side of like the other side, the astral realm, to connect us more to our spirit guides and our protectors. And it enhances our psychic abilities as well as our mediumistic abilities as well. These are very important factors that need to be spoken about, I think, other than just, okay, I have a bottle of Florida water, I use it to cleanse everything. But do you understand how it's cleansing? You understand why? Or are you just doing it because you saw it in a YouTube video?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right When it comes to like spiritual based literature books, do you have any like books that you're currently reading or any favorites?
When it comes to books, I feel like you have to, there's a lot of books that are the same, and they're like the same shit over and over and over again, especially with the Llewellyn publications, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not
Yeah.
like trying to like talk shit about Llewellyn. There's some gems in there, there's some rare gems in there, but a lot of it's like rehash. And because of the internet and because of YouTube, you really don't need literature anymore. Like, I would say if you're getting into a spiritual tradition and you are truly interested, read books about the culture, read books about the race, you know, read books that connect your blood to that, you know what I mean? Understand that, because that's what's going to connect you most to your magic, versus like, oh, I have this book on crystals, I have this book on spells. Like, and what do you like, what do you want? There are some good books out there. I mean, I do read books. I just try to stay away from certain publishers that rehash the same shit over and over and over again. There are books like the Scarlet Imprint Publishing. They have some good books out there they're not so repetitive, and a lot of books that are out there that have some really good information. You'll come to understand that you have to learn to read between the lines with the information they're giving you, because not all knowledge is for everybody. And that's like a big misconception that people have. They want to feel accepted and included, and they want to feel tied to something. But when it comes to magic, we have to understand that wielding magic is like wielding a gun. It's not meant for everybody, because somebody will always try to use it against you. So when it comes to putting knowledge out there and reading things, you have to be very smart and learn how to read between the lines, and learn to read what's actual fact and what's not. But then again, some person's truth might be another person's lie, and some other person's lie might be another truth. You know what I mean? So
Right.
if we were meant to, if everything was true, we'd all be practicing.
Dualistic form of information kind of thing.
Yes. Everybody experiences reality in a different way. We don't all experience the same reality, but just go out and find out, you know what I mean? But I have some books that are 70s that I still read to this day. Like, I have a book called The Modern Witch's Spell Book, and it was printed like in 1971. And a lot
I have that one.
Yeah, by Sarah Lyden Morrison. And that's a really good book. It doesn't go too much into like spell work or like background. It's kind of like a book of essays, and she talks about like spells she did. And I always thought that was kind of cool to kind of get inspiration from and make your own spell. You know what I mean? When it comes to literature, find books that talk about correspondence and learn to differentiate sweet herbs versus bitter herbs and herbs that are neutral, because that's what's really going to help you learn that, because people try to always put shit together and they don't understand that this might not be in synchronicity with this, and then they try to make some kind of spiritual lemonade and it doesn't work out for them. So little things like that, you know, take notes. Go out and find people, go out and find people who have studied or know, because you're going to get a lot more information out of actually getting out and doing magic versus like, I have all these books, kind of like, there's a lot of, I notice online, especially like in Facebook groups, there are a lot of textbook magicians, right? And they're usually like ceremonial magicians. They have like, I have all these books on Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn, but they don't actually practice magic. You know what I mean? They just collect books and they think they're so fucking cool because I have all these books, but they don't cleanse themselves. They don't think they should cleanse themselves. They think the invoking pentagram ritual is going to be the end all be all of everything. So get out there and experiment. Don't be afraid to let it fuck up in your face. Oh.
Right on. So I know now that you started, pretty much everything started with you like when you were a young child. At what point did you start reading tarot?
I started reading tarot in high school as a way to flirt with guys. I just kind of like,
I'm interested.
I started reading tarot and reading palms so I could just flirt with guys, right? I already had this exterior about me because I was really into heavy metal, and it just kind of fit my persona, and I was already studying witchcraft anyway. So it was kind of, I picked it up. You know, eventually I was like, okay, maybe at some point I should actually learn how to read this stuff, since I'm going to be always having a tarot deck with me. And I just kind of went from there. I'm still learning, and I don't think anybody ever really stops learning the tarot. The tarot is very, very, the more you study, the more knowledge you uncover, and it doesn't ever really stop.
Yeah, I was just having this conversation with somebody else before we started the interview, and we were talking about exactly that. And I told this individual, I said, you know, you're never going to stop learning tarot. It just keeps going and going and going. Because the more you're studying tarot, the more you also learn more about your intuition. It opens up a lot of things about you as well. So it's, again, going back to like dualistic kind of learning. You're learning the tarot. Tarot is going to teach you how to learn things about you as well.
Yeah. So
tarot to me is also very much a give and take kind of divinatory tool.
I love tarot. You'll know that when you study the tarot, especially the first deck of the tarot, because the tarot is divided into 2 decks. So the major arcana, you'll realize that it tells a story from start to finish. And each one of these cards represents a different archetype of humanity. As we start with the Fool and we end with the World. And the Fool, which is what actually number 0, right? Like, and then it goes to vision, and then right. So the Fool represents the beginning of our journey. And our journey has all of these different avenues, right? From love to spirituality, from war, from, you know, catastrophe, all these different things that lead to the world, which represents like the end of our journey. I think tarot is so cool just to study. Even if you don't read tarot, you can learn a lot about yourself and the world around you by just studying the major arcana on its own, and all of the knowledge it like opens up for you. You start to realize how the world really is.
Right on. Have you had any experiences where like you were doing something else, or probably watching a movie, and for some odd reason you were able to read with that?
I'm sorry?
Have you ever been doing something else, you know, like at a random point in life, like maybe like watching a movie or something, and all of a sudden it's like you were able to read with that as a form of like, let's say like tarot?
Oh yeah, those are called synchronicities. I read that shit all the time, especially when songs come on, or
me too.
You know what I mean? Or like you know what? Okay, so check this out. When we're casting a spell, right? When we're working our magic, I always do this. I know when my spell starts working because things will start to happen in 3, like either 3 days, 3 weeks, and then 3 months, right? And like little confirmations that our spell has been received, or it's on the right way, or it's going to the right direction. You understand what I'm saying? So like after 3 days, sometimes I'll start to see like names pop up, right? That represent what I was doing in the spell. Like if I was doing something on someone, their name will pop up in signs and stuff. And to me, that is simple. That is a sign from the universe telling me that it's like a confirmation. And then 3 weeks after that, I start to hear from the person, even if it's just a little like or something. I'm like, okay, that's another sign. And then by like, I don't know, a month or 3 months into it, and I start to see results. And then also like when someone's about to come into my life, I'll start to see things that remind me of them, and they come back. You know what I mean? So like little synchronicities like that. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I experienced things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, certain things like that. Because I was recalling one time I was, this was when I was back in San Antonio, like about, like 3-4 years ago, and I was watching The Hobbit. Okay, and that's how crazy this shit is. And all of a sudden, I started to read The Neighbor. The Neighbor was there with me, and I started telling him things that were, because it was just coming to me as I was watching the Hobbit movie. That's what we were watching. And you know, when Spirit tells you, "Yo, you need to tell this person this or that," so you do, And he's like, where are you getting this shit from? And I'm like, well, it started with the beginning of this movie. He's like, what? And you didn't understand. I read tarot, and like sometimes this shit just happens out of nowhere, and I just have to go with it because that's what I do. And so he was like, okay, so like literally a whole 3-hour movie turned into like a 3-hour reading session just for this one person. But it was great. But I didn't plan on it that way. But that's what I meant. Like, you know, things like that, you know, ever happen to you where you're not reading tarot, but you're just out and about, and all of a sudden, like the scenery in front of you just turns into a message for somebody that's there, or
that is what
you know what I mean?
You channeled.
Yeah.
Right? You were open at that time, and the messages came through. And people who channel or mediums, there's different ways to start to get information. So people will get it through dreams. People will get it through thoughts. They'll get it through feelings. They'll get it through sight, like they'll see something or hear. Sometimes they get it's a combination of all 5 or whatever. But you're channeling something, and it's gonna attach itself to the most relatable thing next to you. That way you can give that information. I've never had anything like that happen. The only thing similar to that is sometimes I'll like be with my mother or something, and we're engaged in some kind of conversation about life or whatever. And then all of a sudden I start dropping some knowledge on her, but it's not me. It's like somebody in a different accent, right? And I'll be like, bro, what the fuck did I just say? That wasn't me. And I'm thinking it is me, and I'm just joking around, but really it's one of my spirit guides. They come through and they start talking, right? Because my mom be driving. She's like, damn, bitch, did you just really say that to me? Okay, right? It wasn't me. It was like, it was one of my guides giving the message. And I think that's similar to what you experience. But your muertos or your guides are able to get you to pay attention, right? Okay, they'll start relaying this message. I think it's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating. That was fascinating when it happened to me. I was tripping out about that. We both were tripping out about that. So speaking about synchronicities and things like that, I'm really big on number recognition or spiritual number recognition. I have a particular number that follows me around a lot. I've pointed it out to people, like, because I'll tell them, you know, I see the number 33 all the damn time. Like, I'll be out and about, I'll see it on TV, I look at the phone to see what time it is. It's like 4:33, 5:33, 6:33, something 33 all the time, where it's 3:03. It's a number that just follows me, and sometimes people, they tell me, you know, I don't believe you see it as much as you say you do. I said, well, one of these days when we're hanging out, I'm going to point it out to you. And I pointed it out to somebody, and they're like, man, that number really does get you. And I was like, I see it all the time, all the damn time. So my question is, being with like they call them spirit numbers, angel numbers, is there any particular number or numbers that you see on a daily basis consistently?
No, not really. I mean, I've heard of, my sister does. She's really, that happens to her a lot. Like, she'll wake up always at a certain time, like 5:55 or 3:33 or something like that. But I never really experienced anything with numbers. In fact, I don't know if I've shied away from it, or I'm just not able to compute numbers. I'm kind of dyslexic that way. I've never been good at math. Like, when people are like talking about numerology, I'm like, can you do it for me? Because I'm horrible at equating. Like, so I think that's cool that when people are able to do that, or they experience their reality like that, and numbers come to them. I work magically with numbers, but as far as like numbers coming to me or me seeing numbers, not really, no.
Okay. At what point did you actually start doing like trabajos or spiritual workings for people? Like, when did you start taking clients for that?
I started doing that when I was 24.
Oh, do you remember the first one?
Actually, I mean, if I'm gonna get really, really into it, I would say probably when I was 19, 20 years old, when there's this lady that a coworker of mine, her mother, was really trying to get some guy, and then I was like, okay, I'll do it for you. And I didn't technically charge her. She paid me and supplies. She went and got the supplies, and she took me to like the magic shop, right? You're gonna need that, you're gonna need that. And she's like, oh, okay, right. And then she just kind of like bought me stuff to help me do my job. But I had a bunch of stuff left over, and I was like, all right, like, and sometimes people do that. I mean, not so much now because I charge money, but like,
Yeah.
When somebody I know doesn't have money, or like they really need something, a lot of times they'll come and bring me flowers for my altar, or cigars, or maybe a bottle of Florida, whatever they can scrounge up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or no, so I'll accept that. But when I started actively doing spiritual work for people, I was 24, and that's back when I was on this stupid website called Global Witches, right? And set up, right? They set us up to like people, and that was my first taste, I guess, of like running a business in that respect, right? And when I left, like clientele followed me, and then ever since then, you know, I've just kind of like word of mouth thing, and I focus more now on making like products and stuff like that, like perfumes, and potions, and talismans, and all kinds of different things. But I work a normal job, you know, and I still do that. I mean, not right now because of the fucking pandemic, but like,
Right.
by trade, I'm a barista. I make coffee. Isn't that exciting?
The richest brew, or at least some form of it. So, how do you like your coffee?
With a lot of cream.
So, I know you had different channel before, and then you kind of like took a hiatus, and then you came back with this other channel. What can we expect more with this channel that you're doing now?
Well, the reason I took a hiatus from the other channel was really because I lost my passwords and I couldn't remember how to get back in. So like there's this whole other channel with like, I don't know, like 2,000 subscribers or something. They're all watching my old stuff. And I started this other channel because I'm not the same person I was then. I was still really young, and I've grown magically. And I say magically and not spiritually because I separate the two. And so because of that, I don't do things in a certain manner that I did when I was younger. That, and I'm able to, not always, but I'm able to explain myself a lot better. You know what I mean? I try not to say the word so much, but shit happens. But with this new channel, you'll see, which is not necessarily so new. It's probably like, 4 or 5 years old. There's a lot more magic and spell work relating to obviously love, but like you'll see more things that have to do with Palo Mayombe, Kimbanda. Not necessarily like the initiatory process, because I'm not an initiate of any of these traditions. I actively study and practice these traditions, but I don't know the secrets. I didn't have any of the ceremonies, but I know, and I'm friends with people who are. So they're able to share certain things with me as a non-initiate. But I am working towards my initiation. So that'll probably be part of the channel too. Once I start that, it's just more, the old channel is more hoodoo. This one is more brujeria, like more like Mexican witchcraft, as well as, Cuban and Puerto Rican. And there's going to be a lot more espiritismo. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have that in my old channel. And even though I was talking about Satanism, I've grown since then, and I still have the same beliefs, and I still study this. I still have the same philosophies as a Luciferian, but I'm also a lot more than that, especially now. And as just like any one of us, we continue to grow. You know what I mean? So I guess with this new channel, you just see a lot more of me grown up.
How did you actually come in contact with Luciferianism?
I got into Luciferianism well, right before, okay, well, I got into Satanism first. And I got into Satanism when I was about 17 or 18 years old. And that was because of the music I was listening to, right? Even though it had always kind of been there in the background, I really started to delve into it because of the music I was listening to. It opened the door for me. I'm gonna, like, you know, it's like they say, like, heavy metal is the devil's music. Well, yeah, it totally is, and I'm totally down for it. But that's kind of how I got my start with that. And I started reading books. Of course, everybody, their first satanic book, you know, like the Satanic Bible.
Right.
I was like, you know, 18 or 19 when I picked that book up and I read it. And then from there, I started to get into a lot of the music I was listening to. The musicians themselves were really into like chaos magic, and they were writing about luciferianism. And I had been happening to study those types of things. So like it just kind of opened the door for me even more. So I got really into like Michael Aquino, and his wife Lilith, and the Temple of Set. I don't know too much about where it's at now. But then from there I got into Michael W. Ford.
That's a very interesting man, Michael Aquino.
He, you know, he's very, very, very creepy. The fucking eyebrows and shit, right?
The Scottish kind of. Yeah, he's very interesting.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're getting a lot of comments here, so let's take some comments. We have 5 or 6 people watching, and we have a couple of comments. Do y'all want to take some comments?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start off with this one. I don't know if y'all can see it.
Florida water is like an aftershave. That's what it is. It's an aftershave.
I've done it before, especially after I shave my head.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a burn right there. But it works better than most aftershaves, I feel.
70% alcohol, babe. Right?
It'll do it.
But yeah, that's what it is. It was originally sold as an aftershave.
Right, yeah. Hi, you guys. Thanks. I enjoy your channel. I'll have to check Luna's. Oh, yeah. So, Luna, do you want to, since we have this one from Stanley Bird, in case they don't know your channel, especially because you have other ones, what's the active one that they can reach you by?
Okay, well, there's 2 active ones right now. You just type Elizabeth THORN, and there's going to be 2 channels with that name, but find the one that has the most recent videos on it. Like that's the one. And then there's another one, it's Luna THORN, and that's like my music.
Okay. Yeah, Stanley, I think what we're going to do once we're done with this live video, once it gets reposted back up on YouTube, we'll go ahead and take the links for Luna's 2 channels, and we'll post them in the description box. So in case you can't find it or anybody else interested, they can just go ahead and go to the description box and click a link to take them right away to it. So we can do that too after this. So yeah. What else, man?
Let's see. I'm going one by one. Hold on. Oh, that one's already done? Puro. She's talking. That one. Let's do this one.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, okay. Well, now's especially good because we have the full moon energy going on right now.
Yeah. But I would suggest, if you're making Florida water, when you're done leaving it out in the moonlight, to bring it back inside before the sun touches it and put it in someplace dark and just let it steep. You don't want the sunlight to hit it too much. Actually, you don't want the sunlight to hit it at all. You want to keep it in a dark place.
It'll sun bleach the properties in it.
Yeah.
Let's see, what's my time on initiations, dedications, and things of that nature. I was into theistic Satanism for years, but I'm into Santa Muerte. Stay with her now. That's not a bad choice. I've never. What's you're a good person to ask about this. What's theistic Satanism?
Theistic Satanism is when you believe in an entity called Satan or Lucifer and you work with that energy. Where
Okay.
atheist Satanism is basically like LaVeyan Satanism. They don't believe in an entity called Satan, and it's more of a philosophy. Where theistic Satanism, I see more Luciferian. They do believe in these entities. Like
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Michael W. Ford once, and he was, he's a very serious man, and he talks about like I do believe in this, like this is not a joke. So that's more theistic. Where they, where atheistic is they use it more as a sign or symbol.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Wow.
And so,
I
like
didn't know that. That's
the
so cool.
LaVeyan Satanism is a little bit more based on like I've heard the terms like the self-preservation type of theology, right?
I see LaVeyan Satanism as more of like atheists who like to party, and they're not afraid to indulge in those animalistic desires. So it's a way of life. There's no actual magical practice that they have. And I know there's like a documentary from like the 60s where you see like the altar and everything, but I always thought that was just more for show. It wasn't really like, anything.
Theatrical.
So that's where like Michael Aquino comes in. Like Michael Aquino was part of that, but he took that and he, made it more magical, more, spiritual. You know what I mean? Versus, pretend.
Can you go a little bit more into that with Michael Aquino and like the type of set? Because from what I understand, Michael Aquino, he kind of like, he basically kept, in a nutshell, from what I was made to understand, he kept the LaVeyan Church of Satan going, but in his own right. Is that correct?
I'm not too. I mean, I don't know a lot about Michael Aquino. I know of him, and I know some things through like what do you call it? Through researching other things. So like it's a character that keeps popping up until you start to learn more and more about this particular person. And from what I've gathered, he took what the Church of Satan did and just made it more grown up. They did bring ritual into it. They did bring spirituality or dark spirituality into it and things of that nature. But I'm not an
Some very interesting practices, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff I've read.
Anton LaVey's daughter Zena LaVey, she did the same thing. Her and her husband Michael Schreck, when they have like the Order of the Werewolf or something, they kind of did the same thing. It's kind of like they shied away from the whole Hollywood version of what Anton LaVey created, because Anton LaVey was a performer. He was a circus performer, and
he came from the circus and he played I don't know what the name of that kind of the calliope or something like that. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He played like a keyboard type instrument, didn't he?
Oh, the organ.
Yeah, but it has a different name to it. I think it's called the calliope or something like that. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Calliope?
But yeah, calliope. There you go. Like I said, I was probably butchering it. But yeah, I think I remember seeing one time on YouTube. They have a video of him where it's like a room. He has like a whole bunch of them going on. He was actually really talented musically.
I always thought he was kind of hot too when he was younger with the bald head. Like
that's
a lot of women thought he was hot, especially that Jane Mansfield.
Wow.
So we have some comments. We have some comments on Instagram and on my Facebook page. So, want to go ahead and answer those?
I see somebody. Is it Miércoles, right?
Yeah,
Miércoles.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
In this interview, I have always respected you very much. Right on. See?
Right on.
Thank you.
Thumbs up.
I have a question from Sally314 from Illinois. what do you prefer working with, angels or demons?
I don't work with
Luna.
either. I work with my spirit guides.
Is there any reason as to why?
They just work better for me, and I have no anything against angels or demons. You know, they are part of all of us, and we all have inner demons that we probably work with too. Okay, so in our spiritual frame, we have our spirit guides, right? And they're usually for the most part benevolent entities that kind of guide us through life, but it would be ignorant of us to think that we don't have also like a court of demons or inner demons that kind of, you know what I mean, that we have to work through in that form of shadow work. So there are also lower level entities that when you have your spiritual table set up, or your poveda, there's usually a part designated for lower level entities that are also in our spiritual frame that we have to, like, you give them a glass of water just to keep them there, you know what I mean, and not fuck with us. Everybody has some kind of demon, but the reason I don't work with them is because I just never had a need to. I work closer with my own spirits. I would highly advise anybody who is interested in working with demons or entities, especially of like the Goetia, proceed with caution. I mean, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. Do what you need to do and find out for yourself. More than likely, it's either not going to work for you at all because you have no real training, or you might find something that you can't get rid of. And I have an experience with the Goetia. And when I was like 26, I tried to mix things together. Like I tried to mix hoodoo with the Goetia, and that's didn't necessarily work out for me. So I was trying to do some love spell on some guy, and I was trying to invoke, right, the demon Salos on a candle by drawing its symbol, right, and trying to do some hoodoo ritual and thinking, okay, like it didn't work, whatever, wrong. It just worked more fucked up. There's a certain preliminary you have to do in order to do these kind of rituals, right? So I just didn't. I believed it didn't work. I didn't see anything for like 2 weeks. Everything was going bad for me. I was really depressed. I kept losing money. Like hours at work. I had bad dreams. You know, like I don't know what the fuck was going on. I thought somebody did something to me. And I was trying to do something on some guy. Yeah, I was trying to do something on some guy that I didn't even have to do anything on him in the first place. He was already in love with me. And so one day we were smoking weed on my bed, right? And so like he was hitting the pipe, and when he exhaled, I saw a fucking black mist, right? And I was like, what the fuck is that? I'm like tripping balls, right? And he's like, I don't know, it's probably fucking smoke. So I'm like, all right. So I just ignored it. The next day when I opened my closet to get my shoes, that black mist came out, and I'm like, oh hell no. All right, there's something in my room, right? And so I called my sister's cousin, who is a magician. I told him, this is what's happening. He's like, hold on, let me take a look. And he like did a reading, and he's like, okay, what were you doing? And I was like, I don't know, I was just doing a love spell on somebody. And he's like, no, you were doing something else. You did something with it. You were trying to invoke a demon. And I was like, I was? Oh, yeah, I was, right? And I told him, he's like, he had to come. And he called me and told me how to, like, get rid of it and how to cleanse everything and not to fuck with the Goetia anymore. And I didn't. Because, you know what I mean? When you try to mix things and you have no idea what the fuck you're doing. So if you want to do it, go ahead. Knock yourself out. You got to see it for yourself anyway. You know what I mean? Part of witchcraft is experiencing it.
Yeah.
Trial.
I have a question for you, Luna. Yeah, we have a lot. I have a question for you, Luna.
Okay.
How would it differ from doing Alexandrian, you know, the pagan stuff and your magic, and then going into the spirituality that you are now? What had to change in your magic? Had it changed any, like stronger or weaker?
Well, For me personally, when I first started, okay, so Wicca, or the first two traditions of Wicca, which are to me are the truest and purest form of Wicca, and everything after that is pretty much diluted. And people are going to get mad at me for saying that, but I don't care. They don't pay my bills. Alexandrian witchcraft and Gardnerian witchcraft, to me, it was more of like a way for me to get myself involved with the craft and have some kind of guidance, versus my magic just being kind of haywire, not knowing where the fuck it was, what I was doing, or where it was directed. I think that Wicca, for anybody who is really young, is like training wheels. It's a good system to practice and to get into. Some people stay with it and some people don't. I didn't stay with it because I felt I couldn't progress magically, not spiritually, but magically. The reason why I separate the two is because people try to tie a morality towards magic, okay? And I feel like when you tie a morality towards magic, you limit yourself. And as a magician and as a witch, I don't want to be limited. I want to be free and to be able to practice and cast spells and do things the way I want to do them. And that's just me. So
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't like to be bounded either.
yeah, and I understand that some people need that kind of structure and they need that kind of order in their life, and that's totally fine. But I felt very limited when it came to Wicca and that form of witchcraft. There are still certain things I still follow and I still utilize to this day that I was able to kind of adapt into what I progressively got into. Does that make sense? You know,
Yeah, it does.
and then there are things I feel like I don't function doing anymore. There's things I don't need to do anymore. Like having all the tools, you know, the accoutrement of witchcraft, the athame and the chalice. Those are all nice things to have, but I don't really need them anymore. So when people talk about like traditional witches tools, that's usually what they're talking about. But when I think of witches tools, I'm thinking about like, you know, a cheese grater or to grate steak, you know what I mean? Or a glass bowl to make my baths, blenders. You know, we don't live in the fucking Middle Ages anymore. You know what I mean? We have technology. It's not a taboo thing to use. People want that kind of atmosphere, though. I understand. Like they want to feel connected to witchcraft in some form or another. And I guess in a lot of respects, it's paying homage to ancestors and the witches that came before and connecting that way. But I am constantly focused on moving forward instead of staying in the past.
That's a good answer.
For real.
We have this question right here.
Yes, when I was a Satanist, I was so depressed, angry, and alone. Santisima Muerte has helped me with this, and I'm more aware of angels and demons now. They only care about their agendas, not us. How do you feel about that?
I feel that angels don't have a free will. They don't have free will like we do. I don't think they really care too much about human affairs. In fact, I think that they think very low of us. Like, I don't think that angels are necessarily what most people think, who get into these kinds of traditions. Most people who are new ageist want to believe like, oh, angels are all light and like all you have to do is call upon them. And in reality, I don't think they give a fuck about us. That's just me. I think that if they had the opportunity, they would probably kill us. Okay. And when it comes to demons they are what we create them to be, you know? They're like all of the depression and anger and lustful feelings and jealousy that gives life to demonic energy, I think, you know? And so when people are no longer depressed or they kind of pull themselves out of it, they kind of just forget about all that shit. You know what I mean? Like demons and angels really have no real meaning for them in their lives anymore, or they just forget about it or they move on. There are a lot of people, though, I have noticed who are in some kind of state of depression now because they've dabbled in witchcraft and they were already not in the right frame of mind to begin with. And because they were dabbling and they opened a door they couldn't close, they end up running back to Jesus.
Right. Yeah, we do hear a lot about that, or like you'll be on YouTube documentaries or history stuff, or be random YouTubers as well that are, you know, in the same playing field as we are. And you run into like these documentaries, like, you know, an ex-Satanist exposes this or that, and then you click on it just to see what they're going to say. And they talk about like, well, I was in Santeria, and now, you know, I couldn't do it anymore. I saw shit running across my bed, so now I went all Bible thumper. And yeah, you do hear a lot about that.
See interviews like that, or when they talk about, oh, I was in something, they always use book terms. They don't use traditional terms that, you know what I mean? That tells me that shit, you know what I mean? Like they were reading some books or something, or it was scripted. You know what I mean? They're using very Hollywood terms.
Right.
That what they're telling is bullshit, and I'm not going to really give it much attention.
Right. Gotcha on that. What else
we
you
got?
Shaman Moon?
A lot. We have a lot, dude. Especially on my Instagram, too.
I agree. All good witches start at Wicca, then grow and develop their path. I've noticed this with so many people.
Don't get me wrong, okay? Like, I still have a big place in my heart for traditional witchcraft. I mean, I don't like have the fucking altar and things anymore, but you know,
I love traditional witchcraft.
Once in a while, I get in the mood to draw down the moon. You know what I mean? And like get into that state of mind and do some kind of ritual in that manner. But I've grown up. You know what I mean? I don't really. I've did other things. You know.
Yeah. I could never get into Wicca. I mean, I did kind of like the armchair kind of witchcraft thing when it came to Wicca, where like I got the books, I tried the different, but you know, you'll see the Anna Riva stuff, you'll see the Llewellyn stuff, and then we move on to the Gardnerian stuff. But like in everything I looked in, it just like it never clicked for me, you know, like. So at one point I just stopped with all that, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to get into this stuff because. I mean, no disrespect to Wiccans out there. I do respect Wiccans, but for myself, it just was like too light for me. Like it wasn't, and maybe that could be because of, you know, my Mexican upbringing in the Roman Catholic Church, especially like when people are doing prayers in Spanish. You know, if you know your prayers in Spanish, they sound a lot more powerful than when you're doing them in English. So I think it has a lot to do with that.
That's what I noticed too, Chris.
A little different than, you know, the rest of Roman Catholicism. Mexican Roman Catholicism is very, like, to me, I perceive it to be very strong. The prayers just sound very strong. And then to top it all off, you get, you know, grandma doing it at her own stomping grounds at the church. It's, you know what I mean? So there's that whole thing with me deep inside me that, and when it came to Wicca, I couldn't see myself doing that stuff. It was just too, like I said, no disrespect, but for myself, it was too floofy for me. You know what I mean?
You got to think about it in the sense that culturally we're all different, and when you grew up on the Western Hemisphere, like here in the States and in some parts of Europe, right, where from the time that we are born, it is inculcated into our brain, you know, symbols of Christianity, the cross, you know, these free Masonic symbols, these symbols of Western, you know, esotericism, right? Esoteric symbols of the West, right? When we go to places like Japan and Asia, where they have Shinto and they have like you know, the Buddha, and then they have the in India where they have the Hindu pantheon. We cannot connect to that because culturally we're over here, and so when they come over here, it's hard for them. You know what I mean? So like we all these things that are already engraved into us, so it's easy for us to tap into those types of symbols, like the cross, like prayers, like these symbols in Christianity and Catholicism. And it's also, even though we have this connection. There's a little part of us that is connected to Wicca too, because in Wicca they also use a lot of those symbols too, such as I only been to a Catholic mass once. They had they were casting a circle. They had the stage, or not the stage, but they had like the incense going and the holy water. And I'm like, they're casting a circle. It's the same thing, you know. This is all Western occultism, is what I'm saying. So like culturally, we tap into that even more, whether it's Wicca or whether it's high magic or whatever. You know what I mean? Even in Mexican witchcraft and Spanish witchcraft, brujeria, there's also elements of Catholicism. You know what I mean?
Hardcore elements of Catholicism.
Yes.
Very hardcore.
And that's because for the longest time we had to hide. You know what I mean? We had to hide behind these images.
Right. See, have you ever thought of writing a book? You always have such wisdom. I would think if you decided to write a book, it would be so good. That's a good question. That's from Miércoles Gomez Tarot.
I don't know. I see a lot of people who write books. There's a lot of people on my Facebook page who are authors, right? And there's just something about it that I would have to accept. There's always going to be somebody who's going to talk shit about what you write and what you put out there. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I really want to go through that.
Writing a book just to accept some drama.
You know, because a lot of people put books out because they're trying to get some kind of spiritual or magical clout or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Watching this live feed on my Facebook by a really popular author in the magical community who writes books for Llewellyn, right? And they were talking about how they were kind of going on a rant about, you know, in my tradition, we don't show our altars. We don't do this and we don't do that. I'm like, shut the fuck up. You're so like live right now. Like you're putting your shit out there for everybody. Are you kidding me? Like that's, you know, everybody has something against something else. Everybody has something to say. And then everybody's always putting somebody else down because it's not traditional. It's not that. It should be like this way. Well, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, who the fuck are you? You're just somebody on the other side of my fucking computer screen. So there's too much negative energy out there. I don't know if I really want to put a book out because, I don't know, I might get like a thumbs down, right?
Yeah, you're right on that. Somebody always has something bad to say or judgment, negative judgment. Yeah.
So, Luna, I have a question for you. What is your favorite tarot deck to use? Or, like, do you have a favorite tarot deck or oracle deck or Spanish cards you like to use?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, Luna.
Oh. My favorite deck is the one I use, and it's called, I mean, I have a bunch of decks and I like to collect them, but I always use the Morgan Greer one. Let me see. It's like far away. Hold on one second.
Okay.
So I want to say it was like printed in the 80s or something, but I love using this one. So there's some image of that one.
Cool. Oh, I have that one.
Yeah. And this is the one I use the most. This is the one I work with the most because I did like a ritual on it.
Wow.
But I have other ones, but it's not my favorite because of the imagery or anything. It's my favorite because it's stuck with me for so many years and
wow.
The spirit of its own. So
Right.
I have a question for Chris
Okay.
and Luna. How do y'all prepare your card decks? Like, do y'all do rituals? She's asking if y'all do rituals before y'all do a reading, or like how do y'all prepare for a reading? And this is from Kathy Sanchez from Oklahoma.
you can go first, Chris.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so usually when I get a tarot deck, I do this whole thing. Like, I make sure when I get my tarot deck, I also buy, what I call its house, which is going to be like its box. So, for instance, I bought this one right here. So this is what I call its box. This is what I keep my tarot cards in. I currently use the Tarot Illuminati. For anybody that's ever seen them, but over here. They're like the Rider-Waite tarot, but they're just very more colorfully pronounced. They're very bright and vibrant. See, there's the sun. So just like the Rider-Waite tarot, just very, very bright and vibrant. I will get a prayer card and do a spell with it and do my spell burnings around it, and then I will go ahead and glue it on the inside as a form of a protectorate. And that always watches over it. What I do with the inside of the box is I will take some patchouli oil and line the inside of the box with the patchouli oil. I'll sage it around a bit. I'll take the tarot cards. I will sage around the tarot cards. And then what I'll do for about a good 3 days straight, for as long as I can, even if I can't throughout the whole day, like if I happen to be watching YouTube videos, I'm just shuffling the cards, breaking them in. So when I do readings for people, I don't have that kind of stiffness in the cards if they have stiffness. Because, for instance, these tarot cards, the Tarot Illuminati, they're at least this set that I got, they're kind of stiff cards. They're not very easy to bend, so I really did have to work them in. But in doing that, you're kind of putting your energy into it. You can say prayers from within, imagining that poder, that power, so that it gets to know you. Your energy goes into it as well. And so that's typically how I prepare my card. That's like my little ritual. That's how I do it.
That's cool.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, it depends if I'm going to be actively using the cards on a regular basis. But there are decks that I just kind of pick up and start reading. I can even read playing cards, but usually when I find a deck and I'm like, okay, I want to use this on a regular basis, I get 3 things. I get rum. This one has chili in it.
Wow.
Right.
That's
And I cigar and a white candle, like a emergency candle. And what I do is I like just on my altar, I'll take the cards themselves when out of the box or the packaging. I light up a candle. I put a glass of water, and I take some of the rum in my mouth and I spit it on the cards. And then I take the cigar smoke and I blow it all over to wake up the cards and to instill some kind of life in it. And usually what I'll do is I'll dedicate this card to a specific entity that I work with and let them talk to me through these particular cards. Mm-hmm. And then I just keep the cards on their altar. But that's I only do that once. After that, I don't have to do it again. But when it comes to praying for a reading, I clear the cards. So usually I just shuffle them like that, right? And that helps break out the energy. And then when I finish shuffling or breaking the energy, I kind of tap on them to get the excess energy out. Then I take the cards and I shuffle them this way to put the questions into the cards and keep them in there. Then I have the person divide it into 2. Then I put it back together and then I start reading. Maybe I'm crazy, but when I shuffle them like this, I feel like it releases the energy of the previous reading. Mm-hmm. And then when I shuffle them like that, it keeps the energy inside so I can read them. But sometimes you're out and about and you don't have your cards with you. Just give me a pack of regular playing cards and I'll read those. It's not the ritual. It's like, it's you're the one reading, you know what I mean? Like all that matters is your own, like Chris, I bet you don't even need cards. Like you're really good. You can just channel information.
You know what? I had this experience a couple of times, but the one I remember the most is I was back in El Paso, my hometown, about, I want to say like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. And I went to a bar down on the strip, because for people that don't know, or these people that, you know, who knows they're going to be watching or not, but some people might remember me from San Antonio. A lot of the places where I actually used to read cards at were actually the bars. That was my main place of business.
Hell yeah.
So I used to read cards at the bar in San Antonio. So when I was in my hometown, I decided when I was real bored, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go out to the bar. I'm gonna do something I haven't done in a long time. But I didn't have the tarot cards on me, so I thought, you know, let's see if something comes up. Let's see if I can manifest something. You know, if somebody to ask me questions. You know, I didn't go with anybody. I went on my own. Didn't know anybody there. And sure as shit, I kid you not, you know, I was thinking, you know, I needed to track somebody just to see. And sure enough, this dude starts talking to me. It was him, his wife. They started hanging out with me. And at the time I had my tetragrammaton. So they're like, oh, that's a totally different type of pentacle. I've never seen that before. And so obviously that starts the question. They're like, can you read? And that's when they were hitting me. I was like, oh, here we go. And I was like, yeah, I can read. They're like, oh, okay, when can you read me? I was like, I can read you now. They're like, scoping down, you got your cards on you? I was like, I'll read you like this. And they said, okay, how much do you want? And I said, you know what, just to see, I'll take a beer. He bought me a beer. Him and his wife bought me a beer. His wife got kind of freaked out. She was like, I don't really like this kind of stuff. So she took off. She went off to hang out with her friends. It was just me and him. And I started reading him. And his jaw just dropped so many times. And that was one of the strongest times where, like, I mean, just little thing after little thing that was just coming out of me. He was just like, holy shit, dude, how do you know this? And who do you know that knows me that I don't know knows you? Because somebody's got to be giving you information. And I was like, hey, y'all came to me, you know, like, I don't know anybody that knows you. You know, this is how it works. And so, yeah, I'm able to read without cards and stuff like that. But I do enjoy reading with the cards.
Yeah,
you know,
same here.
There's a lot of people that they read the cards, but they're still learning the cards. They're going by the book, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there is per card. There's things going on with each card with the symbolism. A lot of it comes from Freemasonry as well. So there's a lot of image symbolism going on, and synchronicities. But they would do tests on me. And I was that kid where, like, they would show a card to, like, the star, the circle, and, you know, what do you see? And I'd be like, I see a star. And they're like, no, what do you really see? And I would tell them stuff, and they would just write things down and they'd fuck off. And then I go back to the class, and I never really understood what that was about. Well, all these years later, doing what I do now, I think it kind of clicks to me, like, they realized that was a little different, you know? I didn't know at the time how different I was, but apparently I was that different. They would do tests on me. You know, mathematics to me were always a little different. I always looked into it too much. I made it harder than what it is. You know what I mean? So yeah, numbers are really strange to me. But yeah, you know, like you said, I'm able to pick up on people's energy and read them. The worst thing, friends, but sometimes you're just like, it starts coming in and you're like, shit, man, I don't want to be doing this right now. But you know, the lives that we lead, being spiritual people, the things we work with, the spirits or the energies we work with, I mean, this is who we have become. And so, like, when it happens, you can't deny it. And it's like, you're either going to spit it out, whether they like it or not, and let them be the ones to walk away and get freaked out, or you're going to go home, because if you're there, you're there. This is what we do, so we kind of have to.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the life that we've been working for anyway. And so when the messages come, tarot cards or not, you just got to let it out. But yeah, that's one of the few times where I've read somebody on the spot without tarot cards, and it proved to be a pretty strong reading. It was intense.
Hey Luna, do you read the cards by any chance?
The Baraja Española, yes.
Yeah.
I don't like to read them because they're too accurate and they scare me. And sometimes I don't want to know. Like the tarot cards, is one thing. You know, I mean, they kind of give you advice But Baraja Espanol, they're like, girl, you're gonna be in a car accident. Oh hell no, I'm not trying to read that. But I do read them when I have to. But those ones are too like detailed.
I still haven't had my experience with those yet. But I've heard the same things too, that the Baraja Española is it's just way too. I mean, it has a lot to do with your intuition as well, but there's just something very particular with that particular deck of cards that it's almost like immediate the things that will happen. When tarot seem to open up more of a gateway of like being able to handle things, seeing if what's going to be coming up, and if it's something that's not wanted, you have enough time to kind of work around things. That's why I call them tarot guidance readings, because it's kind of like helping you make a roadmap before shit comes down. If it's something that you don't want happening, you can kind of take other roads, knowing ahead and in advance. But with that tarot, with that deck right there, I've heard the flip side. It's like, so once you walk out of that reading, I mean, everything that deck was talking about, like, it's gonna start. There's no safety nets. So I rather know what that card deck.
That's why I think it's best if you are somebody who reads those cards, that you should also be very skilled in magic, because those cards are they can be very, very detailed and talk about tragedies. So you have to be prescribed to prevent that from happening, like a spiritual bath or a cleansing or some kind of, you know what I mean? Like something to prevent that from happening. Because that's not necessarily a deck that I use for some kind of advice or guidance, where the tarot is. So I only read that deck when I absolutely have to. Otherwise, it stays on my my boveda.
Right on.
I use these cards only for spiritual readings. So when I read somebody, I use them for spiritual readings and spiritual consultas nomás. But these are freaking accurate. Like, you're actually right, Luna, because they predict things like hardcore.
Yeah.
I read people with these cards. Everything that I told them came to pass.
It's one of the things that are you prepared to hear what they're about to tell you? It's kind of like getting a reading in. It's kind of like getting a lettering in Lukumi, like with Orisha tradition, or Apollo when they throw the shells, or they do the coconut shells, or whatever they do. The Telingun, right? Those are very accurate, and when I get readings from those types of readings, I'm like, okay, am I ready to hear everything they're about to tell me? Like, I don't know if I want to hear. But usually when I get those readings, I get it done by a priest in that tradition, and his name is Tata Oriate. He's on YouTube too. So
I know him.
Yes, he's a good friend of mine. So I usually get my readings from him. But when I get the readings, they also prescribe baths, like or cleansings, or things that you need to do in order to prevent certain things from happening. So if I want to know something like that, I don't really necessarily go to my Baraja Española, unless I usually go to him, and he'll read me, or him and his wife.
Cool.
Right on.
That's right on.
What else you got for us?
Let's see what else we got. Like, literally my Instagram feed is full of comments.
Let's do some Instagram.
What do we got? Okay. We have one for Chris and we have one for Luna. So I'll go with you first, Chris.
Okay.
The question that they're asking, they're asking two types of questions. Can you do limpias, and how much do you charge, and how do you do your limpias? What does it entail?
Well, when I do limpias, especially like because of the COVID-19 thing, and especially because of distance between people. I usually do a novena. It's a 9-day cleansing with candles. I prepare them a certain way. I stick the names in there, and I use certain hierbas and oils to manifest. And I do carvings into them. I'll carve like triangles into them to manifest, the cleansing. And I do prayers, and I'll do rosaries for the particular client for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do from a distance.
Okay.
Something like that, all my trabajos, I'd like to think I'm a very affordable brujo when it comes to doing spiritual trabajos and stuff like that. So all of my trabajos start at $60 for anybody that's interested in something like that.
Okay. All right. So Luna, let me see. There's a lot of questions. I'm opening it. Hold on. There's so many to choose from.
Choose the easiest.
Okay. Okay. I'm choosing one. Hold on.
Is he okay?
Okay. So I have 2 and 1. Okay. Okay. When they're asking, if they were to get a reading from you, what do they have to do prior to get a reading from you? Like, do they have to wear any clothing or wear anything special? Or because this lady said that she went to somebody for a reading, but they told her that she needed to wear and white clothing and some bring a tobacco. So the question is, if they want to come for a reading from you, what do they have to do? Just contact you? They don't have to prepare anything?
No, they just gotta email me.
Right.
When it's time for them to get their reading, all I need is their full birth name, and their date of birth, and all of their questions, like a list of all the questions that they want to ask. The reading is divided into. So I throw the cards. I tell you what the cards need to tell you, what's going on in your life currently, and then after that, I answer the questions. And so I do typed up readings, and then I do readings through Skype or on the phone, and I charge depending upon what type of reading you want. So the cheapest reading would probably be like $44, and that's to get a typed up reading. And I usually send that out within 48 hours.
Okay.
60 to do a video reading, and that's like 30 minutes, but you get a lot of information in 30 minutes. But I don't need to dress. Gotta show up.
Okay. There's another question that she wrote. She said that her boyfriend works with La Santisima Muerte, but he works with the black aspect. But she wants to know what does he do with it if that he's in prison and he's not able to give him the offerings. Like he's locked up right now, and normally he gives them offerings, but he can't give it to them. So can she do it on his behalf? That's her question.
The best offering that he could give is prayer, from his heart. And so she could, but it would be better if he gave the offering. And since he's in his situation, the best offering that he could give is prayer.
Right.
And I have a question for another one for Luna and Chris. What do you associate with the bubbles and the water? Like, what does that mean to y'all? Like, what do y'all see the bubbles in the water?
And you
Like
mean the
in your
goblet?
altar, you get bubbles. What do y'all take
Yeah,
it to be? Like,
it
yeah, the
depends
goblet.
on, because not just because your cup was full of bubbles doesn't mean one thing. It could mean a bunch of different things.
Right.
So on your altar, when you
Okay.
have for instance, you're giving an offering and for some reason your cup starts to develop bubbles all over it, it usually means it's like those bubbles are called fluidos or fluids, spiritual fluids or currents. And
Mm-hmm.
so they don't necessarily mean something good, but they don't necessarily mean something bad. It depends on what you're doing. So if you have a cup of water on your altar because you've just given an offering, usually that means that the the energy you're working with has accepted the offering. If you have a cup of water on your altar just because, and you notice that there are no bubbles but it's clear, that doesn't mean anything bad. It just means that there's clarity and that the relationship you have with the energy you're working with is clear. If you have bubbles in your glass and there's only bubbles at the top, the energy you're working with usually requires prayer. They need you to speak to them more. They need the breath, the energy of the word. Um, if there's bubbles usually just at the bottom, it usually means they need some kind of offering of something physical like flowers or a candle or something. Also there could be bubbles because you can consecrate talismans within the water. So everything means something different, but sometimes if you're working a cleansing on somebody, the bubbles can tell you that there's like something on the person, so it all depends on exactly what's going on with the situation, so they can be something bad or good.
We lost Chris. Huh. I guess his connection went out.
Oh,
Um. Also, there's another question for you, Luna. What did it mean when your water evaporates too quickly on Santa Muerte's altar?
number one, it means to fill it up as quickly as possible. Like they just take that energy. They say that the dead need two things. The dead need water because the dead constantly thirst, and the dead need light. So it just means that they drink it. You know what I mean? They took that energy, so fill it up.
Okay. Um. Can you? There's one more, and they're saying, can you work Santa Muerte with the left-hand path?
Santa Muerte is not. It's not an energy that's just for one thing, because death, the energy of death is not good or evil. So it depends on where you want to take it. So if you want to take it there, then that's where you take it. If you want to take it to a place of light, then that's where you want to take it. There's no one way to work with her, but at the same time there are traditional ways to work with her. So it all depends on the person.
And they're also saying, do you believe Santa Muerte accepts everybody to work with?
Well, a lot of people have some issue with that because they want to use culture
Mm-hmm.
as a way to bring some kind of stigma or dogma or whatever. But you have to think of it this way. Death comes to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, rich or poor, gay or straight. It does not matter. Eventually, death is going to come for you. It would not make sense for Santa Muerte to turn her arms away from anybody because death comes to everybody. That's why, that energy is prevalent in our lives.
Wow. Okay. So, on a different note, that was the last. That was a comment that we got. So do you have any questions for me
Um,
before
I
we wrap this up, or?
kind of like answered. I don't know. I don't really have any questions, but I don't know. I'm not the end all be all of anything. I,
Okay.
I only know I have a good amount of knowledge here and there, but there's always going to be somebody who knows more. So
Uh-huh.
I
Uh,
people should find
also,
it out for themselves.
Yeah. Also, where can people reach you at? Do you have an email?
Yeah,
Um.
my email is babylonrising777 at gmail.com, and that's spelled
Mhm.
BABALONRISING 777 at gmail.com. And
Mhm.
I'm on Instagram. But you can follow me on Instagram. So that's Luna Elizabeth Thorn. Or
Okay.
Luna Elizabeth Eve Thorn. So there's 4 names.
I got one more, and she's asking, do you offer limpias as well, like Chris? Do you
Uh,
offer?
if you live far away, no. I do though make bath, like spiritual baths like this right here. It's in one of these bottles
Mhm.
with the correct herbs, but you would have to get like a reading done to see what kind of bath you need or what kind of cleansing you need. A lot of stuff you could do by yourself, and in a reading I can show you how to do that. But not every cleansing is for
Mhm.
everything. Some people need something strong, because there's cleansings that you do that don't require herbs. They require pieces of meat, you know what I mean, and you have to, they can get really dirty. So it depends on what comes up in the reading. I do make baths, and sometimes I ship them, but normally I just work with people who are more local to me.
Okay. I also wanted to elaborate on something that Chris said. When I started with Santa Muerte, your video was actually the first one that I ran across. Um, your video was
Oh.
actually the first one where you told me where you were talking where Santa Muerte, the 3 different colors. She
Hmm.
comes in white, red, and black. That one.
Oh, okay.
Um, that's the video that got me into
Oh,
Santa Muerte.
yeah, I was like 24 when I put that video out. I was young.
So that that video really helped me understand and not be afraid of Santa Muerte because I was always hearing these negative connotations about her, that she'll take your loved one away and all that, or she'll harm you if you turn away from her. Um,
I think a lot of times people hear those things from people who want to keep Santa Muerte to themselves, or they want to keep that energy obscure or secretive, which there's reasoning behind that,
yeah,
but whether you believe that or not, you got to think of it this way. People who are alive are a lot more scarier than Santa Muerte.
yeah,
You know, you, somebody who's alive can take your loved one away. You can
yeah,
walk outside and get hit by a car. Are you going to spend your whole life afraid of death? Or are you going to live? Santa Muerte is not just about death. She's also about living.
yeah. Um, I have a I have a comment for you. How do you know if Santa Muerte likes the offerings?
It depends. I mean, usually it doesn't. I can't speak for anybody else. Everybody experiences Santa Muerte in a different way, and you can experience it in feeling, or you can experience it through omens, like through water,
Mhm.
like or through candles. Um, One thing that you could try doing is, just put a basic white candle on your altar first and see how it burns. And if it burns bad, move the altar somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, you'll find a way to communicate with her, because that's basically what they're trying to find out. They're trying to communicate with her, is what I'm gathering. To see
Yeah,
whether or
that
not the offering is accepted. But in most cases, as long as it comes from your heart, I don't
yeah.
understand why she would turn it
Well,
away.
okay.
She's not really like that. That's not an energy. That's not really how she is. Now if you have an
Yeah,
offering that you took off somewhere else and you gave it to her, then I would be a little bit offended.
yeah. Do y'all recommend what about you, Chris or Luna? Do y'all recommend any beginner books on Santa Muerte? Where do the people can learn about her? Do y'all recommend any books for beginners?
That's really hard, because there's not a lot of books in English out there. So I really don't know. All of my information that I have, that I've received, I got it from other people. You know, and
Okay.
and then I, you know, like books in Spanish.
Yeah, exactly.
We
I
got
agree with
this
that. Books in
comment.
Spanish.
We got a comment from Gomez Tero.
Thank you to all three of you for this live chat. Sorry, Luna, I just get starstruck with you. Ooh,
I can start struck with
get
you.
it, girl.
So, well, Chris, where can the people reach? Where can people reach you to book a reading with you? I already got Luna's. Where can they reach you?
So people can contact me by email at theguardowl@gmail.com. That's all lowercase HEGUARDOWL@gmail.com. To book a reading with me. They can go in an email, whether they want the $40 reading or the $60 reading, and what date and time that they want me to book them for, so I can be available for that. Or they can also contact me through Facebook. They can go ahead and on their Facebook Messenger. And oh yeah, you already know about this, Jonathan, and so do you, Luna. So like Luna, I ended up getting a new phone, and when I was programming it and everything and getting Facebook going, I realized my Facebook that I had on my other phone, it was tied in with just automatic sign in. So trying to sign in with the new phone, it wasn't doing that, and so because I did that with the old one, I completely forgot the old password. So like Luna had to do create a whole new Facebook again. So for anybody watching out there, the other Facebook page that I have, the one that's black and white with the red on it and a bandana, that's the old one. The new one I have is in color with the red bandana on. That's the current one. But yeah, you'll figure it out if you got the right one or not, because if you send me a friend request, you message me, I will message you back almost immediately, and if I don't within like the first 5-10 minutes, you're not on the right one. So I apologize for that. But yeah, those are the two ways that people can get a hold of me.
Cool. So, all right, guys. So we're gonna end the video here. So I really appreciate it for y'all joining in. I really appreciate for both of y'all for joining in, and I really enjoyed the interview, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. And I hope the people that were watching and commenting enjoyed it. So hopefully we can probably do this again. So thank you all, and I'll see y'all later. Bye, guys.
All right, for sure. Thanks a lot, Luna.
Bye.